Welcome to Wildlife Park 2. Right now I am scoping some land to build a realistic tiger enclosure. Wildlife Park 2 is it's a fun game. You know, what I found out when I was building this enclosure is most of these take me about 45 minutes to construct. And you can see here I've created, I found some land that I want to build in, and I want it to be pretty large. This game is designed, I think, mostly, to create these wide, expansive parks, whereas in Zoo Tycoon, it's designed mostly to create enclosures. But I like the zoo type of feel instead of a park. So I am going to make these large enough to make them look realistic as a zoo enclosure. I need to use this steel gate because the tigers can get over the other gates, the other fences. I use a lot of fence in this game to block off the people who attend the park, and of course the animals. I'm looking here, I'm not sure how big I want to make this yet. I also want to make sure that I have enough room for the visitors to see it. And I like to sort of make different sections of the game so that or sections of the park so that the visitors have to travel to it. I think I will incorporate that water. One thing about tigers is they actually do like water, unlike other cats. Back there you can see the food equipment and the water pump. Looks like I have a map where it rains. Alright, now let's see, what do tigers require? One thing that you need to look at in this game is that the type of land that they're on, the type that you paint it, must be the hardness that they require. So let's open up what a tiger wants. It's been a while since I've played this game, so I need to just refresh myself. So hardness of ground, 20 to 50. The size of the herd is 1 to 8. That's key, especially if you want them to mate. They have to be happy. You can't have more than 8. Obviously, you'll need more than 2, or you'll need at least more than 1. They like to jump, climb, swim, and scrape. They eat meat and water and drink water. All right, so I need to find an appropriate type of land that they want. 20 to 50. I forgot already. I want this to look very realistic. The grass, just plopping down trees and grass, it does not look realistic. And I like it to be varied, and you'll see how this comes together. I don't want it to be very even. And you can see that little divot in that fence, like the square. That's where I expect the visitors will go. Now let's add in some other type of brown, just to give some a varied look. And all of the hardness of this is fine for the tigers. I'm adding some mud around this water, making it a little bit darker, just for realism. Alright, now for the trees, I could spend a lot of time to add in the type of trees that I want, but tigers typically come from India and China, if there are any left in China, I don't know. So those jungles look a lot different than, other locations. And so I want to have a lot of trees where the tigers will rest and have some privacy. And I want it to look like a jungle, but you know, like a forest as well, a temperate forest. So these trees to me look temperate. I don't know if they technically are, like a gray poplar. Actually, I think that is temperate. I actually know that one. But the others, I'm not really sure about. They just look pretty good. Adding them all around. And one thing I will add is bamboo, you know, because tigers are an Asian species, and they do live a lot in forests where there is a lot of bamboo. And you can see I'm towards that section of the fence. I'm adding some trees because I don't really want visitors to look in there. I want them to go into that square area. I don't want them to congregate near the other types of fences. Okay, I'm elevating the land a little bit towards the back. This gives it a 3D look for the visitor. Tigers don't live in mountains, as far as I know, but I do know that, you know, forests are hilly, usually. Here's some bamboo. Now with bamboo, you never see one shoot of bamboo. You see lots of bamboo. So I'm sort of adding them in little areas. So they haven't completely taken over the forest, but there's plenty of it in little patches. Definitely want to add some things on the ground as well, like azaleas. Also have some color. These trees add some color. Notice I'm not putting a lot of trees near the front of the fence because, you know, this is an enclosure, so we want the visitors to actually see the animals. Now we'll add some ground cover. There are some azaleas in here. There are not a lot of short shrubs in this game. One thing you want to be careful when you're building a fence and you're elevating the land within the enclosure is there's not a lot of space between the hills and the fence. Otherwise, the animal will get trapped behind it. No one will be able to see it, and it might get stuck. I have seen that happen. Alright, now I'm adding some reeds, and it looks like rice. First time I've noticed this in the game. I'm adding this around the water to make it look realistic. Obviously, all of this is designed to look manufactured because it is a zoo. You can see in there's a water pump in the water area. And I like that, you know, because it sort of reminds people that this is, you know, you're playing as a park manager. You can see some butterflies starting to appear. It's starting to really look very natural, I think. Now, each one of these trees and plants requires a specific type of soil. As you can see, I'm not giving a lot of care for that right now, but I need to. Otherwise, they will start dying. But as they die, I will identify which ones require the type of soil that they want, and you'll see me go through that. And you're going to start seeing these trees and plants die. But once you correct the soil, they come right back. Oh, it looks like my zoo is in the north. So it's going to be winter. I did not expect that. But I do remember from some wildlife shows I used to watch, tigers do live in this cold environment, so this is pretty natural. I'm adding some rocks. There are 3 different sizes of rocks in this game all around, and that just makes it look realistic. Now you can see how I've made the hills towards the back, that it sort of draws the eye towards the plane that I created in the front of the enclosure. So you can watch the animals and feel like you're that it's a natural sight, as natural as possible for a zoo enclosure. Whenever I add these rocks, you know, in nature you rarely see one rock alone, so I usually put them in little groups. And I think designing these enclosures, it's sort of like painting. It's very relaxing. I wish there were more rocks though in this game, and you can turn them. If you use your arrow keys, you can turn them in different directions. The trees in this game, I have not found out how to turn them. I need some branches, and I think the branches in this game look entirely fake. But the tigers want to scratch, so I need to have some branches in there. Tigers eat meat, so I'm going to add just a couple of locations. Not all over the place. But you want to put them close for the visitors so they can watch. You'll need a gate for your zookeeper. I like to keep the gate away from the visitors, just because I don't think it looks very natural. And these gates don't look real at all in this game. And one thing that you really have to be careful, well, actually not be careful, you just don't want to, I don't want it to look unrealistic. You don't want an open gate right next to your visitors, although it doesn't really matter. They're not going to go through it in this game. I'm making this visitor area plexiglass so they can view the animals. Trying to decide how to block off the visitors from this area. I'm not sure. Maybe I need to add my animals now. And what will happen when I add the animals? They'll start to tell me what's wrong. I'm going to add 2 females and 2 males. It looks like their gestation period is a pretty long time. I could add other cats, and I think a jaguar might look okay in here, but I think a jaguar will look more appropriate with a rainforest type of setting instead of a temperate forest. So I'm just going to keep tigers in it for now. I wish you could see the land, but I guess the snow looks pretty good. And we've still got some butterflies. Pretty hardy butterflies. Alright, this has to be smoothed out here in the front. Otherwise, visitors won't be able to see it. Now basically the enclosure is finished, but so now I want to create the visitor area. And this is where your zoo can really start to look realistic, because you want to add a theme to it and all sorts of other things. There's a lot to do. And I like these areas to be almost sectioned off and different from the other parts of the park. So each enclosure sort of has its own theme. And then I want to do a lot of landscaping, and you'll see what I do to this little area here. And as I'm creating this, I'm just thinking about how I want it to look. I just have a very rough idea. The paths in this game do not go directly up to the fence. That's okay. I'm adding some telescopes, binoculars for the visitors. And I'm turning these with the arrow keys, and I've never noticed that before. I think I was turning them some other way in the past. Now I'm using the arrow keys, and that gives a lot more control. Some donation boxes, and this is just for realism. The visitors do use these, but I've never really made a whole lot of money off of them. But I like the look. I like having them there. Let's add some places to sit. Again, turning with the arrow keys. I'm sort of wishing I made this area a little bigger, but that's okay. I'm going to make a little enclosure here. Add some nice color. Make it pretty and varied. Looks like some visitors are already coming there. I did not mean to do that. I wanted to close them off, but I can see that little space on the right hand of the screen. Looks like they're getting in through there, so I should have closed that off. It's too late now. In a second, I will zoom in, and we can look at it from a visitor's perspective. Trying to decide what else goes here in this little section. You know, pavilion sort of matches the Asian theme. I'm not doing, a lot. I'm not making it extremely Asian. Where it's possible that you can do this in the game. There are a lot of Asian decorations, but that sort of draws the eye to the section. If you're in one part of the park and you see that pavilion, you sort of want to go there. And I'm starting to build this park up, and it's making me money. I like to play this game by the rules, so I like to make money and base my designs off of the money that I make. And it's pretty easy to make money in this game as long as you bring in visitors and you have a place for them to eat, drink, and use the bathroom. Alright, I think this is the first time we're here from a visitor's perspective. Let's get out of that wall. Pretty neat. I don't like how I can't see the water from that area. You have to really stretch to look. I'll fix that here in a minute. Let's take another look. When that snow disappears, it'll look nice. I think that this game, you know, you've got snow on the ground, but the trees are still green and flowering. It's just not right. As you can see, my trees are dying, and I expected that. And that's because they don't like the soil, and I will fix that. I don't want to have a whole lot of decorations. I like it to be as minimal as possible. I'll put a couple in here. Not a whole lot. Alright, now, if you're a visitor, I don't want you to go immediately down to that water or fall into it, so I'm going to add some fencing, which will block people. That guy is going to be stuck. And since they're already going into there, I may as well just open up that section to everyone already. And you can see how it's really, it looks much more realistic, naturalistic. There's a lot more to do though. Sort of feel like Bob Ross painting happy little trees. But you know, if you do go to a zoo, they sort of look like this. They are like little patches of wilderness made in the middle of a city. I'm placing this bamboo again in groups because that's the way it grows. Now I'm mixing plants. I'm adding American boxwood. I don't really think that matches or goes together in nature. But these visitors don't know it. It's still February in the game, so that snow should be going away pretty soon. And there are two other things that I definitely need to add. As I can see, the tiger droppings. I need a zookeeper, and I also need a gardener. Without those, the animals will die, and all the plants will they'll not get watered. Without a gardener, every plant in the game will die of thirst. And so I'm placing the is that a gardener or the zookeeper right there? And you can see the path that the zookeeper is told to manage. You can change that. You can move the path. So that zookeeper is going to take care of half of the exhibit. And this zookeeper right here, I will change its work area to the other half. There we go. That's about right. I've got double coverage. Make sure my production facilities, my meat facility, is running. Alright, good, the snow is gone. Lots of dead plants. I'll show you how, I will show you how to fix that. Alright, these trees. Let's figure out what's happening with these trees, because they are dying. So I found, for this particular tree, I looked at why it was dying. It said that the grass, or the ground was too soft. So I grabbed some soil that's around 30 hardness, which I know that that tree will do fine with, and I put it on the smallest diameter and put it right under it. That should fix the problem, and you'll see them come right back to life really soon. I've got several of those trees, so you've got to do it to every single one of them. Probably going to deal with it with the bushes as well. Let's see what these trees want, these crepe myrtles. I am so cold. Well, that's not a good sign. They might not live in this environment. It looks like I have a northern zoo. I think this is the German zoo. Or they might just die during the winter and then come back. From my understanding, none of the plants really die. You can always revive them, but you can see how bad they look. You have to do this with every tree. Wrong one. And the idea is that this is a forest, and this is where the tigers go and they relax, spend their day catching animals. Alright, we want to make sure we have a gardener who has access to these trees on this side. Otherwise they will die and they'll say they're dying of thirst. I'm pretty sure that's the error. And we'll give them half of this enclosure. Another one on this side, so that it has the other half. You know, one thing I noticed, that a couple of these trees were outside of the gardener zone, so I will probably have to correct that later on. Irrigation is how you can tell if they're getting watered. You see that meter on the right, hardness 40, irrigation, whatever the meter is. If they're not getting irrigated, it means you do not have a gardener. Alright, let's walk through here as a visitor. Really good. That one kitty is grooming himself. Oh, okay. This just looks like a pit. I want to change that, and I'm going to do that here in a minute. You know, so that area is my tiger area. So let's take a look here at our tools. Let's fill in the path because I accidentally deleted it. I really don't know how rigid these paths are in the game. What I mean is I don't know how closely the visitors follow the paths. They might visit them very closely. Not really sure. But these fences are to guide them to make sure that they don't go into areas that they don't need to go. That ground is too soft. It's an azalea. It wants 50 to 80 hardness. So let's take a look at our ground. Find one that's 40. That's 70. That's too hard. Well, it's actually all right. but it doesn't look right. The ground, which is called soft. So for all azaleas in the game, I'm going to give it this 50 soft ground feature. There are two there, there's another. And I put it on the smallest diameter. And you can see sort of how it adds a lot of dimension and texture, so it actually looks more realistic to have a variety of ground cover in the game. As long as your animals are fine with them, I think it's okay. Alright, let's fix this pit. Let's see if we can slope it more towards the fence. This way the visitors can view it more effectively. You have to be real careful doing this. If you mess up, you can hit Control Z. And there are also some arrows on the map which will allow you to go back in case you do mess up. Rounding out the ground so it looks more natural. You see, the tiger wants to go to that water already. Alright, let's take a look from here. Let's close this down. You know, for a game being so old, I still think it looks really good. And if you consider all the mobile games on the market, just how primitive they look, this game is advanced by light years, considering to many of these mobile games. Now you can see that tiger in the water. Now what is strange with this game is this plexiglass deletes the water. You do not actually get to see the water. You can see the shadow of the water if you look closely. But for whatever reason, the plexiglass does not display water. Now I notice there's a cat in the back. You see where the arrow is. He is scratching himself like he's supposed to do, but we can hardly see it. So I'm going to also lower that hill so the visitors can enjoy the view more effectively. Right there. You see it. Right there. Terraform, round off terrain. That should do it. That should make it flat in this area a little bit. At least you get a nice straight view back there. Now, the game doesn't care if the visitors can see them or not. From my understanding, the visitors paid, as long as it's an enclosure, that's really all they're looking at. I don't think they're actually looking at the animals. I might be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. And I could do a lot more to this area, to this water, since I've, done this in terms of putting some more rocks and reeds and rice. I might do that later. But, you sort of get the feel for it. Make it look natural. Tiger paradise. You can see I've laid out a lot of my zoo, but I haven't finished it yet. I'm just getting the basics. Close this off to visitors. And I think, adding a lot of fencing in the game can direct your design. Because you can sort of see where you need to fill in the spaces. And you definitely need a gate so that your personnel have access to it. And you can see that zookeeper in that little park area down there. He's just waiting because he has nothing to do. And if you notice, a tiger jumped a rock, so that's good. It seems like they're happy. What I have not checked for a while is actually the tiger's happiness. I will check that in a moment. We'll see the things that they need. The animals in this game, they will not breed unless they are completely happy. So if you want to have kitties, these tigers need to be very happy. do another walkthrough as a visitor. I'm using my WASD keys, and if you hold Shift, pardon me, I'm doing the WASD keys. Using my right mouse button, holding that down, and holding Shift. There are a lot of keys that lets me to walk through the park and to move around and look at things freely. I think this looks really good. The rest of the park is bare, but that's it. So I hope you enjoyed this. If you like this video, please hit the like button below. If you want to see more videos, hit subscribe. I do want to check these. Okay, it looks like these animals want to climb. There are other things you can put in the enclosures. I think for now I'm just going to get this climbing apparatus, not a tree trunk. Tree trunk might work, but I don't think so. You know, you can experiment, but I'll tell you, these tigers will not breed if they're not satisfied. And there is a climbing staircase in here. There it is. I'll add 2 of them. Now, they're not going to blend into the environment very well, and I think that's okay. As long as, you know, it doesn't overpower the look and feel, I think it's alright. And it's sort of a reminder that, you know, this is a zoo. Now, look at those animals running to check it out. That's what I like about this game. One of the things I like is that the people who designed the animals, they really understood the animal behavior and tried to represent it as closely as possible. Because, you know, if you have some house cats or even tigers, you know the instant you put this in there, they'll be all over it. Now, if this, if the game makers really knew what they were doing, they'd allow us to just put cardboard boxes in there. In actuality, if you buy the entire Wildlife Park series, Wildlife Park 2 series, you do have house cats. And I like to put the house cats all around the park. I'm afraid if I put house cats into this enclosure, the tigers might eat them. That would be pretty ugly. I'd rather use a different animal if I wanted to check that out. Well, this is it. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, if you like it, please hit the like button below. If you want to see more videos like this, hit subscribe. Also, let me know what else you want to see, and leave any recommendations you guys have that you might have for future videos, or anything that I've got wrong, or any advice you have for other players. Thanks a lot.